Hi, this is Yujie. In this video, I'm going to talk about what a reference angle is and how can we use it. Sometimes we have an angle that is bigger than 90 degrees. For example, 120 degrees or 225 degrees. How can we find its trig ratio, like sine, cosine, and tangent? Because we cannot draw a right triangle with that angle, right? So in this case, we use something called a reference angle to help us. So what is a reference angle? If we draw a 120-degree angle in the xy plane, I start from initial arm and then rotate it counterclockwise. The terminal arm should be in quadrant 2. This is terminal arm. So the angle between initial arm and terminal arm is 120 degrees. And where is the reference angle of this 120-degree angle? So the small angle over here between terminal arm and x-axis is our reference angle. The reference angle is the acute angle from between terminal arm and the x-axis. And the reference angle actually is acute angle. We know acute angle should be less than 90 degrees and should be always positive. So this is how we find the reference angle. So for example, we draw an angle 225 degrees. Same, we start from initial arm and rotate counterclockwise by 225 degrees, should be here. And the terminal arm should be in quadrant 3. So this is terminal arm. And this is 225 degrees. And how can we find the reference angle of this angle? Same, we know this is terminal arm and this is x-axis. So the small angle between terminal arm and x-axis is the reference angle. So here is the reference angle. And in this case, reference angle is equal to, because we know from here to here is 180 degrees, and we use 225 degrees minus 180 degrees, and this should be equal to 45 degrees. So the reference angle of 225 degrees is 45 degrees. Here is another two different examples. For example, if we draw a 150 degree, same, we start from initial arm and then rotate it counterclockwise by 150 degree. So the terminal arm should be located at quadrant 2. So this is terminal arm. And the angle between terminal arm and x-axis is the reference angle. So we find this is terminal arm, and this is x-axis, and the small angle, the acute angle, so this is the reference angle of 150 degrees. So we can calculate theta in this case should be equal to, from to here is 180 degrees and minus 150 degrees is 30 degrees. So the reference angle of 150 degrees is 30 degrees. And another example, if we have an angle 300 degrees, we begin from initial arm and rotate. Here's 180, 227, and then 300 should be here. So we rotate counterclockwise by 300 degrees, and this is the terminal arm. And this angle is 300 degrees. And where is the reference angle of this angle? Same, with the same method, we find the terminal arm and we find the x-axis. So the angle between terminal arm and x-axis is the reference angle. So in this case, the reference angle should be, because this is a circle, should be 360 degrees, and minus 300 degrees is 60 degrees. And this is how we find the reference angle.